Welcome to Aagahi with Warisa Zainab. They say that if you want to make changes in your life, you have to make changes in yourself. And in order to bring a positive change in yourself, you need to change your mindset. Now, changing or shifting your perception or your mindset may sound like a difficult task. But if you have power and self control, and if you are able to channelize your thoughts, you will feel and you will see a massive shift and change in your life. To discuss how to develop a growth mindset and how it can impact your life, we today welcome David Clausen, who is joining us all the way from Colchester. He has been working in the field of HR for the past 30 years. He is a mind and behavioral change practitioner, and today he will share his insights and tell us how we can grow our mind and develop positive lifestyle and positive thoughts. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Welcome. That's great. Great to be here. I'm really pleased to be here.
Brilliant. So we will be taking a short prayer break in a few minutes. And before we go for a break, I just want you to introduce the organization that you co-founded, Talent for Performance.
Okay. Well, I've had a very interesting career in that I was a chef for 10 years back in the 1980s and then moved into learning and development because I found that when I was a chef, training other people really helped me because then the people around me knew what to do. But then I got an opportunity to do that full time. So I started becoming a trainer in 1988. And then since then, I've worked with leaders and managers in thousands of companies and hundreds of workshops for leadership development. And then in 2015, I set up my own business with a colleague, Ali Gibbons, and we are co-founders of Talent for Performance.
So what does this organization offer, David?
Well, what we do is we help businesses and business leaders and managers to have clarity about what they do so that they're really clear about what they do, and also to have the right people doing the right things. And then if you multiply that clarity of purpose with the right people doing the right things in the right way and motivated people, then that's when you get performance. So we have a formula for success called clarity multiplied by people equals performance. And we then help the leaders to understand this, to clarify their communication, to understand how to motivate their people, to help people themselves understand how to motivate themselves, because it's not only up to your employer to motivate you, right? You need to motivate yourself as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. So after working as a Michelin star chef in five-star restaurants, why the sudden career change?
Well, okay, I'll be honest. Working as a chef is a tough job. It's really, really
Yeah.
hard work. And when I had the opportunity for, working many, many hours and often unsocial hours and Christmas and New Year and
Mm.
Easter and all these things, and then the opportunity
Yeah.
to work 9 to 5 as a trainer, I jumped at the chance. Monday to Friday, weekends off. I still love Wednesdays, even 30 years later, because I go like, where it's Wednesday, 2 days to the weekend. And just having a more normal life. So
Yeah.
I love the energy of hospitality and the energy of kitchens, and I love food, and it's great to be able to cook at home with the skills of a good chef. It's a very tough life. It's a really hard life.
I can imagine.
I started to say to myself, wait a second, I think I can be even more effective in my life and have a clearer sense of fulfillment in my life by helping other people to enjoy their work rather than just being a chef.
That sounds fantastic. And I can see that it's your passion that's driving you to change your mindset. And today you'll be helping our audience as well to bring that shift. This is a live call-in show. So if you have any questions that you want to ask David, if you want to share your feedback or comments, you can do so on our Facebook and YouTube page. We will join you back after a quick short break in 10 minutes. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum. Aagahi mein khush amdeed. We're just experiencing some technical difficulties. If you could please bear with us, we should be able to reconnect with David, who is our guest today, and he will be talking about growth mindset and how to develop it. David has been working for the past 30 years in the field of HR, and he is also a brain and behavior change practitioner. Previously, he has been working as a chef, and he's got tremendous amount of experience in multiple fields. And today, he's here as a guest to offer his expertise to our audience. Welcome back, David. I'm unable to hear you still for some reasons. Um, let's take a short break again and come back with, inshallah, we'll hope to sort this out. But these things do happen. Before going on a break, we were speaking to David Clausen, who is a mind and behavior change practitioner. And today we are going to talk about growth mindset and why it's important. David Clausen, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I know we sometimes have these technical problems. That's part of life in the current situation.
It is. But we still gotta get up and get back again. So now that we only have 25 minutes left, we're gonna jump straight into the topic, and I want you to tell our audience, David, what mindset really means.
It's a good question, actually, because it was mindset is one of those things that's now being talked a lot about. And it's like the frame that we see the world through. So if you see the world in a particular way, it can mean different things. For example, if you're driving along and your petrol tank, is half full, then is that a problem? Well, you could say, well, not really. If I'm driving in the suburbs, there's lots of petrol stations around, it doesn't really matter. But if I'm driving through the Australian outback, in the desert of the Australian outback, with days' drive to the next town, then it might be a problem, right? So it all depends on what's the frame and what's the situation that you're in and how you see things. And the work of Carol Dweck, professor of psychology at Stanford, did some really interesting experiments where she's a social psychologist, so she did some experiments with young children in school, and then she gave them 3 different types of tests. The first one was a medium one, right. Then there was a second test, which was a really tough one, and then there was a medium test again, which was easier. But the interesting thing that she did was she got to some of the children to split them into 2 groups, and with one group she said, oh, on the first test, which is a medium level test, she just said, oh, you did really well, you must be really smart. And to the other one, the other group, she said, oh, you did really well, you must have put in a lot of effort and a lot of hard work. So smart versus effort. And then they gave them this second test, the opportunity to do a harder test. And they said something along the lines of, look, here's a harder test, but you'll learn from it. It'll be difficult, but you'll learn from it. And they found that a smaller percentage of the children who'd been told they were smart went for that test, and a higher percentage of the people who told they put in a lot of effort went for that test. And then afterwards, they did a third test, which was the same level as the first one. And here's something interesting happened. The children who had been told they were smart were really upset by the fact that they had a real hard test and they didn't do so well. And that made them think bad about themselves. It's like, oh, maybe I'm not smart. And the kids who had told they had put in an effort were just like, oh, we put in more effort, we didn't get as good marks, but hey, we knew it was going to be more difficult, and we just put in more effort and learned something along the way. And then they did the last test, which was the same as the first one, and this time the kids who'd been told they were smart did 20% worse, and the kids who they'd put in a lot of effort did 20% on average better. And Carol Dweck was going like, oh my goodness, this is really the way that we speak to people, the way that we think in ourselves, and the frame we give them, you're smart or you put a lot of effort in, can have us have either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And that's where this term growth mindset comes from. And it's really interesting that in life, when we have a challenge, if we have a fixed mindset, we go, oh, I don't like challenges, I might look stupid, might look incompetent, I might not look successful. Where if we have a growth mindset, we say, well, it's a challenge. Let's try it out and see what happens. It's more experimental. It's more just optimistic.
So this is the main difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Yeah, and there's a number of them in different contexts. So, for example, if a person with a fixed mindset in a particular context receives feedback, they'll take it as criticism and take it very personally and go like, oh, that's like making me look, I'm not perfect, right? I'm not smart, I'm not good. And you're either smart or you're not smart in their view. But a person with a growth mindset goes, okay, thanks for showing me something I didn't know. It might not feel nice to get that feedback. It might be critical feedback, but at least I'm learning from someone who has a different perspective, which is giving me a clue about how to be even better. Because I'm more interested in the process of getting better, where a fixed mindset is you either have it or you don't.
Right. So why is it that some people succeed while some people who are equally talented do not?
Well, that's a really interesting debate as well. And I think social psychologists have been studying this for a long time. And what they're finding is that it takes a drive. If you have a natural talent, so some people have a natural talent for numbers or for sport or for languages. And unless you practice on a regular basis and put in that effort, that talent will never reach its full potential. So if you look at all the great athletes, they practice day in, day out. If you look at the great musicians, they practice day in, day out. They nurture that talent rather than just saying, well, I'm talented. I have it or I don't. It's they're really willing to learn. And there's this concept of 10,000 hours. Now, it's not necessarily the truth, but it's a useful way of thinking about it, that in order to get mastery at something, you need to do it 10,000 hours, which on average is 3 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 years.
That's a long period.
It is. So it takes a long time to achieve mastery.
True. But it's quite obvious that, in these times when most people are working from home or students who are studying from home, it's very difficult to stay focused, to achieve your goals, because to find that intrinsic motivation is a real challenge. So what can you do to change that mindset of yours and stay focused?
It's a really good question, and I think it's very pertinent to the situation we're all in, where we don't have the normal social stuff going on. We don't have especially for students, we don't have that normal going out with people and all that networking and stuff. So it's really about being able to take stock and say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing these studies? What is it that I ultimately want? What's the bigger purpose I want to serve by studying? Whatever it is, from economics to psychology to engineering, it's like, what's my ultimate dream, and how can I hold on to that dream, that faith and belief that I can achieve something great if I do my little bit of study today, if I do my little bit of study tomorrow? And how can I be a better student today than I was yesterday? Now, I know that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, and the younger you are, the more it's like, oh, there's lots of distractions. But the more focus you can have, the more easier it is to just go, okay, I'm going to just get through this, and keep lots of little targets. So rather than going, okay, I've got my exams in 6 months' time, it's like, now what do I need to do today to write my assignment for today, and what can I do to focus on the lecture on screen or whatever it is that will help me be able to just maintain that faith and belief that I'm doing this for a purpose, and that purpose pulls me forward. And a bit like my faith, right? That your faith pulls you through life like a force of energy because you have it. a sense of purpose in your career, a sense of purpose in your roles in life, be that husband, mother, father, son, uncle, aunt. That clarity of purpose is really important. And that's, you mentioned intrinsic motivation. That's what intrinsic motivation is about. You're doing it because it's helping you be the best you can be.
So
I don't know if that answers.
Thank you for that. So you mentioned the power of language is a very important tool in changing mindsets. And you also mentioned that our beliefs about ourselves and our environment and our faith also plays a key role in changing that mindset. Often people who have experienced some kind of trauma or negative, unpleasant experiences in the past, their beliefs, their perceptions, their mindset tends to change and becomes negative with time. That's another thing people often struggle with. How can they change it into a positive mindset, a positive attitude?
Okay, so the latest thinking from the field of neuroscience, because in the last 20 years, scientists can now watch what's going on inside your head as well as just knowing what's going on in your brain. Because up before that, they'd chop up a brain, but it was always from someone who was dead. Now they know, oh, look, these bits of the brain are switching on. They're having electrical impulses when people feel different things. And when we're experiencing stress or trauma, we can very easily become negative, narrow focused, so we're only seeing one tiny little thing, and we're not seeing the bigger picture, and it can help. It can suppress our sense of well-being. So it's about little things, little goals, little achievements. How can I be better today at whatever it is than I was yesterday? So I want to improve my fitness. Okay, what can I do to go out for a 5-minute walk tomorrow so I'll be more fit tomorrow than I was today? Then the next day, what can I do to maybe go 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Or maybe start running or doing some sort of exercise that will help me become more physically fit. Watch some stuff on YouTube. It's about having clarity of purpose and lots of little things. Because otherwise we dwell on all of this stuff, these memories that are maybe upsetting us. And we need to have something small and tangible to look forward to and to connect with other people. So the key things for good mental health are around getting good sleep, so making enough time to go to sleep, and following the rules of before sleep, ideally 45 minutes, switch off all screens, 45 minutes before you go to bed. Better to read a book or something like that. And then to ensure that you're eating well. You're getting your proper nutrition and you're eating fresh foods. Don't avoid processed foods. Avoid too much sugar and alcohol or whatever else that you know is not really good for your body. I'm not saying don't do any. Well, maybe you have your own personal beliefs around that, but avoid those things that are highly processed or highly refined. They're the things that need to be avoided. So balanced diet, good sleep, exercise, make sure you get out and get a little bit of exercise. Ideally, something that makes you puff and pant a bit. And if that's to begin with, just a brisk walk. Very good. I go for a brisk walk every evening. And making sure that you connect with other people. Talk to people and include them, even if it's only on a screen at the moment, because that's all that's available. But connect with people. And here's something that we've been doing some research on recently, my business partner and I. Gratitude. Give enormous gratitude for the things that you have in your life, the relationships you have, the fact that you've got a roof over your head. Many people don't. The fact that you have a bed to sleep in at night. Many people don't. The fact that you have your well-being, because not everyone's well. So it's just sometimes we take for granted all the good that we have in our lives. And a good mindset comes from immense gratitude for appreciation for the people in your life. And not just thinking appreciation, but actually telling people why you appreciate them in your life and what it is that enriches your life because they're in it. Now, not only does that make you feel better, but it'll also make them feel better. Yeah. So you're spreading the love in that way.
David, you have also mental health first aid, and you practice mindfulness yourself in times of adversity and when you're finding it difficult to cope. How does mindfulness help in situations like these?
Well, it's interesting that you say I practice it in times of difficulty. I practice it every day so that when I have a difficulty, I have it at my disposal. And that's the difference. So a lot of people go, oh yeah, I'll practice when I need it. I mean, some people will go, oh yeah, I'll pray when I need to, but I won't pray every day. It's like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. It's like, practice every day, mindfulness or prayer, whatever your choice is. And when you do it every day, it's a habit. It's something that you're used to. And then when you need it or when you have adversity, you're more able to cope with it. Now, you asked about mindfulness. And mindfulness is a state of being able to think and observe your thinking. Now, that's an interesting thought for a moment. So, for a moment, if everyone just listening, for a moment, just do this. Just breathe in and breathe out. And if only you're focusing on your breathing in and breathing out, rather than what's he trying to do? Why is he getting us to do this exercise? Because your brain is just chattering away the whole time anyway. But if you can just focus all of your attention on just your breath and do that for maybe 2 minutes, this is what happens. The body begins to go, I am safe. The brain begins to go, I am safe. There's no threat. The fact that there's no threat calms me down. The fact that there's no threat allows me to utilize my brain and all of my brain more easily, especially the ability to understand, the ability to memorize and recall, the ability to make decisions, and the ability to inhibit impulses. Those 5 things are the key bits that are in your prefrontal cortex, which is the very front of your brain. If you take your brain there, this very front piece of your brain, just that little bit on the front, is your prefrontal cortex. And if that's not able to function properly, that's when you get challenges. That's when you begin to get pessimistic and upset easily and defensive and more fixed in your thinking.
And I think people often tend to get quickly because they don't want any obstacles or challenges in their path. They just want everything to be smooth and easy, and a little bit of challenge can put them off.
Right, and that brings us to another point, that life is full of challenges. And if you look at anybody who's successful in life, be that an athlete, be that think about anybody who has children, right? When your little child begins to stand on its legs, do you go, and it falls over, you go, oh, you're useless. Don't try that again. No, it's like, oh, do it more. And then you hold them up and then they get wobbly and they fall down and they go, was that okay? And everyone's cheering. And so they get up and they do it again. And then they walk in the first steps like everyone's going like, yay, you're brilliant. Why don't we do that for more stuff in life? Why don't we celebrate those little things where we can actually have little achievements and go, yay, great.
Yeah.
So life is full of challenges and we need to overcome them by taking little baby steps and gently get over them. And then when we get over them, we need to celebrate that we're over them.
People with a growth mindset, they tend to be high achievers. They're more successful in life. Whereas people who struggle with, negativity and, like you mentioned, pessimism, they are kind of fixed on problem rather than finding the solutions. And sometimes they find it difficult to see a clear path. They need that external help and motivation to do things.
And that's absolutely true. And my colleague and I realize that there's a lot of stress at the moment and a lot of people perhaps falling into a bit of lack of wellness. They're not 100% well with mental health. Normally in the UK, 1 in 4 people will have a mental health issue in any given year. And now it's the pandemic, so it's probably showing up more. And the most important thing as a mental health first aider that we learned about was to go, it's okay. It's like you're not well. Speak to someone. Find someone to talk to. Acknowledge that the world isn't really a nice place for you at the moment. And just go, that's not normal. The world is a nice place. Generally speaking, for most of the people on the planet, the world is a good place. If you're full of all this stuff, it's not a good place. Speak to someone and find and talk to other people, because you'll only get better if you can talk about it to someone else. Ideally, a qualified professional, but talk to someone in the meantime if you can't get hold of a qualified professional, because just like you've got a broken arm or you've got an illness in your body, you don't just try and fix it yourself. You don't stay and say nothing. You need to get a doctor to help you. Well, and the beautiful thing about the mental health thing is we now know so much about it that there's so much evidence that it is something you can overcome. And my father was clinically depressed twice back in the 60s. And he became a completely normal, functioning, well human being. He was a great dad. It happened when I was about 2, so I don't really have any memory of it. All I can remember is my dad was a great dad, very creative man, brilliant at what he did, wonderful father. So it was something that happened in the family, but he overcame it, and it just wasn't an issue. There was no stigma around it. Where in some situations and in some cultures, there can still be a lot of stigma around this sort of thing. So it's just like saying, okay, it's maybe a bit of a taboo to talk about, but unless you talk about it, you're not going to fix it.
So what can people do to overcome this stigma, David?
Be compassionate with one another is my basic thing. There's a lovely quote by a very wise chap called the Dalai Lama who says, be kind whenever possible. And that's what he said, be kind whenever possible. And then he goes on to say, it's always possible. It's always possible to be kind. So what is it that we need in order to show more empathy, compassion, and kindness towards one another, especially when someone is feeling down a bit? Because when someone's feeling down, they need a bit of encouragement to not just like cheer up, but to be able to go, okay, you're feeling down. Let's talk about that. And listen genuinely to what it is that's concerning them. And help nudge them towards seeing that this is something that they can overcome, and a belief and faith that they can overcome it, because lots of people have, and lots of people do every day. People are recovering from mental illness, and that they may need to seek professional help in order to do that. But compassion is the key. If you ask the question, what can we do? It's about sharing compassion and being kind and gentle with someone who's in a state of upset around, especially if it's a longer term, right? If they're being upset for about 2 months or more, that's quite serious. Then they really need help.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. We only have 2 minutes left. If you could share your final message with our audience, please.
The final message is really about being able to recognize that those few things: look after and make sure you can sleep well, look after yourself and make sure you can exercise well, make sure that you're eating well, and that you're showing gratitude for the people in your life and the little creative things that you like to do which are not work. They're the 4 cornerstones of a healthy, happy life. And if you can do those things and help other people to do those things, I believe that will be a good place to start day by day. And to practice questioning why you do what you do. What's your bigger purpose? What's the focus of your life to be able to make a difference, a positive difference in the lives of others?
Thank you so much, David, for this insight. Although we experienced some technical difficulties, but I'm sure people found this episode quite insightful and helpful. If you have any questions that you want to ask David, or if you want to share your feedback and comments, please message us on our Facebook and YouTube page. You can also call in the studio and we will pass on your questions to David. Thank you so much for your time today. And like you said, that we need to have small goals in place rather than looking at the bigger goal to make things more easy and accessible. And as they say, that if you're going on a path and you want it to be free of obstacles, then it probably doesn't lead anywhere. And you mentioned about gratitude, how important that is to show compassion. And as someone has said that it is not joy that makes us grateful, it's gratitude that brings us joy in our life. Once again, David, thank you so much.
Thank you too. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
We'll come back on next Saturday with another fantastic guest and another mental health related issue to discuss. Till then, look after yourselves and most importantly, be kind to yourself. Assalamu alaikum.